All right, sit back, relax. It's time for another Laneway Talks.
G'day, Rob. Welcome to another episode of Laneway Talks. How are you?
I'm good, Vince. Hello to you. Thanks for having me again.
Good to be back.
Yep.
Today I wanted to discuss from my side, and then I do believe there's a few things you've got too. I wanted to discuss there's a new, and I've brought this up before about the environmental issues in relation to music, and specifically more CDs and vinyl, a whole host of environmental issues that go with festivals and whatnot. But I more have focused on the vinyl and the CD, and there is an organisation called Green Music Australia, and they form an industry alliance for eco-friendly vinyl solutions, they reckon, in their latest post. And I have a chuckle reading through the whole thing. It's a love fest of love fests in the music business. I can't see any real substance in any of it, but, you know, it's like...
Got to share the love.
Yeah, I got to chuckle through the whole article, and it's an exclusive to the Music Network, you know, and I'll give you my thoughts. And what do you got on today, Rob? What do you got to deliver to us?
Well, there was a couple of things that have happened over the past week or so, just in regards to the merger between the University of Adelaide and the University of South Australia, which seems to be going ahead full steam, but there was a big byline in the Sunday Mail over here, the Sunday paper, about how they're going to axe the Elder Conservatorium, which when I first saw that was a little bit of a worry. And
tell me about that, the Conservatorium. They're going to potentially axe it, but how does the Conservatorium work? Is that within the University of Adelaide? Or?
Correct, yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's there. Now, what you're saying is if the two universities came together in certain parts, or are they going to bring the whole universities together?
No, they bring the whole two universities together.
Right. And
that's what the government's doing. They've proposed.
But wouldn't they set up a new conservatorium between the two?
Well, the initial article that was in the paper says that the University of Adelaide's 125-year-old Conservatorium of Music will be axed as part of the historic South Australian University merger, according to new documents circulated to staff.
Right. Gotcha. Now, means nothing at this stage. You don't know what's going on.
Well, I think it's the media doing a beat up and sensationalising the whole thing to get a bit of interest. And I think that, the Elder Conservatorium, as far as I knew, was in perpetuity when it was started. It was going to be there because it's old Adelaide money, is how I understand it.
Yeah.
And that's really stayed in South Australian culture. But they're talking about dismantling. Once again, I'll bring up the word culture. In my mind, it seems like they're trying to dismantle tradition and old world culture to bring it forward. Now, you can have opposing views on, well, that's great because everything's moving forward, or are we losing tradition and are we losing part of our culture with a new mindset from the government and their agendas?
Well, Rob, I don't see why you can't have what was there and just mould it to more modern techniques or more modern theories or more modern culture, but it all stays and it's being moulded as it moves along. Why would you stop, get rid of it and then start again?
Yeah, I agree. At the moment, there's 500 students in the undergraduate and postgraduate programs there.
Hold on, is that in Conservatorium of Music?
In the Conservatorium, yes.
That's a lot of students.
500 students, yeah, it is. Yeah. It's one of the oldest and biggest conservatoriums in Australia. Now, Anna Goldsworthy, who's the director of the Conservatorium, had this response the day after that was in the paper. And can I read that out?
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
Yep. The Elder Conservatorium is facing no threat of being axed. On the contrary, we are currently on a growth trajectory, with a host of exciting recent appointments over the past 2 months, including international operatic baritone Teddy Tahu Rose and director Erin James and production manager Peter Johns in our music theatre team, and the forthcoming launch of our Elder Conservatorium Circle, our gala concert on May the 15th. Indeed, this weekend has been one of our liveliest on record, with our inaugural string quartet weekend, Adelaide Bass Day, and brilliant performances at House Hall and Elder Hall for the Adelaide Jazz Festival. The university is currently undergoing a consultative process about the structure and names of schools and colleges in the new Adelaide University. Elder Conservatorium staff members are a vocal part of this discussion, and I have no reason to believe that our voices will not be heard. We welcome the opportunities for expansion that the new Adelaide University will bring, as we build on our existing strengths in classical music, jazz, composition, sonic arts, music technology, education, popular music, music theatre, and the Centre for Aboriginal Studies and Music, leading music education in South Australia into the future. That's Professor Anna Goldsworthy. Now, when I read that, I went, that's terrific. There's the counter to what was in the paper on this Sunday. So what do you think? Any thoughts?
When I hear that kind of palavria, it's all hot air and I need to see facts and figures and honesty. And I probably, because I always think the outside, and I think there's probably not a lot of honesty in what's said because they'll be in the background making all the decisions already. She'd know what's going on. As you said, it gets dragged out into the media reinterpret. I find with things like this, why do we need a complete change? Why can't we mould it as we're going along? And therefore, the status quo stays, Rob, but it's moulded towards a newer, developed generation of music students and whatever, and it caters to everybody. Why do we need to? Could you imagine the consultative process, or there's probably a consultant in there who's actually being paid to develop a whole new structure. And so there goes, I'll say there's $1 million gone because, our taxpayers' money means nothing to these people, absolutely nothing. And off we go again. And, do we need all of that? Or can't we just make some decisions? You're part of it, Rob. You're a doctor.
Yep.
What are we saying that you guys have got no idea? Surely it can all be just done in-house, done, bang, all back in order, and we know what's happening.
Yeah, the conversations I've had around this, because this has been going on for the past 12, 18 months, it's the last year of my candidature there, so I've had a few different conversations with certain people. I think the problem is that's not a consultative process with the academics. I don't know how much the bureaucrats within the institutions take any note of it. I'd need to see evidence that they did for what we presented, as in we being academics, to the bureaucrats and see why the results are coming back for saying we're acting Conservatorium, and then the day later the director says, no, we're not. Now, how does that even happen? I had no idea. There's an underlying, in my mind, I could be making up stories, but I think there's an underlying agenda here, which is more than we're seeing. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's pretty much lip service, and how much of it is truth and how much of it is just rhetoric to try and push it in a way of panic and, it's too hard, we can't do this, blah, 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 blah.
I presume a lot of people are going to lose their jobs in the Conservatorium of Music.
Well, that was the interesting thing, because I've been trying to get a job there ever since I graduated, and there is no new job. But I've been told, until this process is over. So, and people that are at the heads of the university saying, well, we're worried about our jobs as well. So,
yeah, I bet they are, because I bet your heads are going to roll.
Yeah, well, and why is that? What are they doing? What, are they cutting funding? Yes, well, they're always cutting arts funding, but...
Rob, with all of this comes with, what are the KPIs? I know it's education, but there has to be some KPIs, and therefore, what are the outcomes at the end of those KPIs? And are we delivering for the students to move on out into the commercial world? And even if you're learning the violin and you're looking towards going to the state opera or something like that, or the state orchestra or whatever it may be, that's still what you're trying to get out of all of this. And therefore, so what are the key performance indicators that we look towards, and are they being achieved? I mean, is that anywhere in your university? Let's say in the Conservatorium of Music, is there any of that anywhere? Because there has to be some end results that justify the money that goes into, let's say, into that department.
Yeah, it comes down to how it flows through the education department and the results that they get out of that. How it flows through to the Elder Conservatorium has the Chasm, which is the Centre for Aboriginal Studies and Music, how it flows through to the Indigenous people. And then there's all the other factions that sort of go along with that. So what is the result that comes out of it? Popular music. How much does popular music gain out of what's going on there as well? Does that flow into bands that actually go out and create income for hotels and at gigs and within the community and the community events? You'd have to see figures on that. They're the questions that you need to ask and go, all right, can you give us some proof about what our KPIs really are?
I agree with you, I think that, a lot of this gets forgotten along the way. It gets forgotten and it becomes as they always say with a lot of issues in this day and age, the theorists, the intellectual set, making decisions for everybody else. And their thought is the best thought because they're the intellectuals. What is an intellectual? Seriously. A lot of questions there. I mean, I'm surprised there isn't more meat around that and that you could actually explain it even more. But so when's all this happening, these universities? When will it happen that they will combine?
Well, it's happening now. They're just going through the consultative process of how they're going to manage it. It's a massive thing. I mean, the University of South Australia is a different beast to the University of Adelaide, but they're trying to combine the two because the University of Adelaide is in the group of 8, which is the 8 top universities in the world. And I think by merging the two, it actually brings their status up again, how I understand it.
Yeah. Well, that means it's a business, doesn't it, really?
Well, it's all it is.
It's a business. When I went to uni...
Education is a business.
Yeah, well, when I went to uni, I went to La Trobe Uni, there was only 3 universities at the time, Melbourne, Monash, and then La Trobe, which was at the bottom of the pile. You only needed a compass to virtually get in there because they were building it. It was new. And, it was way out in the suburbs. So it was a fair way out. And the reason I went there was because I'd gotten quite a high score in year 12. I think my score was like 84, 85. And my brother had gone, both my brothers, but specifically one was there doing ag science, and I'd been there a few times. So we were boarders from about the age 12 and at boarding school. And so I didn't really know the city and, it was familiar to me. I felt very comfortable. I never even thought about should it be Melbourne or Monash where I should go. And I went there and I've never looked back. It was a uni and I was happy with it and and I've had a very good working career and I got no regrets. But, it wasn't considered a business really.
Take a stab at the percentage of international students there are.
Yeah.
Have a guess. What would you think the percentage would be?
Oh, these days I would think 50% plus easy.
70%.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that wouldn't have been the case back then, but it was you didn't consider it as they were internationals or anything. They were just part of the university. I think that when you look at it today, and you never even thought of the universities as operating themselves as a business and charging those students because we had a lot of on-campus accommodation at La Trobe Uni, and there was a lot of foreign students in there, but you still didn't consider it as a business. It was a educational institution for all concerned.
The funny part about that is there's a venue over here called Crown and Anchor that's about to be out.
Yeah, reading about it,
Reading about it, and there's protests and there was a big thing on the weekend in town. What the property developers are going to do to that area when they get rid of the hotel, it puts student housing on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, interesting. You've got the merger of 2 universities. You've got the influx of a lot of international students, but there's nowhere for them to stay. So they're actually, funnily enough, getting rid of an iconic South Australian venue to be able to house international students. They're attracting from overseas.
Well, I think, Rob, where you need to place all this too is, though, remember, we don't manufacture anything in Australia per se. We don't manufacture anything because, the car industry was probably the last bastion of real manufacturing. And there's been this big push that getting international students in for education at universities is big business, and that we are the intellectual country and that we provide services to the international community, and therefore that is big business, and therefore it happens here in Melbourne. Around the universities there is enormous student accommodation, enormous. And on top of that, what you get, those students are also working casually because they're allowed to work casually and are filling those positions which I suppose Australians don't want to do, which is that forgotten, as if, Aussies don't do that and they don't want to do those down and out dirty jobs, and you get all these casuals, international casuals doing it. And so you start to filter into all of that, and it's to me, it's that falsehood of society and how we're developing and what we are and what we will provide to ourselves and to the world. And anyway, that they're my thoughts.
No, good points.
And nobody talks about it because it's all hidden. Politically, it's hidden because they all want the money and they just live for today. And I think society hides it because a lot of those students do the jobs that the locals won't do. And, it's that foregone conclusion or foregone outcome that you're seeing in China at the moment as their middle class have grown or the middle class has grown and moves towards middle to upper, and they are losing cheap labour, and society there wants better living conditions. And, this just goes on and goes on. And this has happened here. I've spoken about this a lot over the years, where I think that, as we become more modern and more upper class, everybody needs to have a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW X5. It seems to be the family car, 100,000 plus. And it's like, well, that's not really in the reality of the average Australian, because they can't afford those. But that seems to be that everybody strives for, and will have a cheaper home, a less valuable home, but we want the big car. It's all about this status symbol or living a higher living standard. And it eats away into societies. There is no doubt about it. And you start to see it here where we don't manufacture, where the service, I think it might have been, because let's not forget, Scott Morrison got rid of the car industry. It was his decisions to cut the funding, and then it was all about we will provide services to the world. Of course, I don't think we even refine our own fuel. There's only one fuel refinery in Australia.
Yeah, that would.
So there's a lot of these economic and social issues coming out, and then you start to see, what's going on around the place with minorities today and within our social structure. And I think of the kids, that what are they actually living and supporting for? What's their support behind? What are they going to think they're going to do in 20 years' time when they've got a family and a couple of kids and they've got a mortgage?
Are they actually thinking about those questions?
Don't know. So things are changing at a rate of knots. So I find that amazing. It's it's an interesting topic that you need to keep us abreast of with those universities and what's going to happen with the Conservatorium of Music. Gee whiz, that it changes a lot. It never increases jobs. It always reduces jobs, combining something like that.
It seems that way. I don't really want to.
They're not going to. They won't
increase.
They won't increase jobs. It's all about efficiencies. It's about as lower cost as possible to deliver the biggest profits as possible. Because one thing I did see a while back was what surpluses, we won't call them profits, what surpluses the universities had, and some of them had huge surpluses. Obviously, some had deficits. And so, if it's a surplus, shouldn't that just be given to the government? Or are they individual institutions who are running as corporations and therefore, no, they keep all the money? Those
are questions that you need answered. Where does all that go?
Hard questions, aren't they? Bring them into a forum, nobody will give you an answer on them.
Yeah, where's the spreadsheet with the results of where all that's gone and what it's been spent on?
And the average Australian has their taxpayer funded their tax payments frittered away on all this kind of stuff, and it is, Anyway, all right, well, keep us abreast of that, and then I'll just bring up now the Love Fest known as the Green Music Australia, and the organisation, love vinyl, hate hurting the environment. Well, Green Music Australia is working on it. So I read this whole article and I get absolutely zip out of it. Nothing. The organisation unites key players across the music ecosystem. You notice what they use, the music ecosystem. So we're using the environment, the environment.
I like that language. You've got language is interesting, how it all changes to whatever agenda there is.
That's right, ecosystem.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah, for Music Product Stewardship Alliance, a campaign with a mission to find a green solution for wax, CDs and other sound carriers. Well, let's talk about CDs first. We should ban those. They should be banned. Now, what was happening 20 years ago, and I was at the forefront because we used to have a lot of wastage of CD.
Can you get a refund on your CDs that you don't want anymore?
Yeah. Well, we used to
That'd be great.
Well, there was two things. We used to send the cases off to be crushed into plastic to be recycled. That company went broke, and that was the end of that. The CD itself never breaks down. I think I brought this up before. A CD never breaks down. It's like 1,000 years, so essentially never breaks down. So we used to put them in containers, and they used to send, if you remember, there was publicity over this, we used to send them to Indonesia, and they used to put them into landfill. So
maybe you could build student housing out of it.
Well, yeah, so they put them into landfill in Indonesia as if, they're a third world country, we should dump it on them. Well, they banned them in the end over there. Right, so we're not taking any more of these, thank God. Then you still got CDs being manufactured. So what have we got? We've got musicians that go, well, that's the only way I can make money is by selling a CD at a show. Yeah, I get it. But unfortunately, if you want to be green and we want to clean up the environment, ban CDs. Don't give me anything like this and this where they find a green solution for wax, CDs and other sound carriers. There's no solution to CDs. They're gone. Get rid of them. Just ban them. And wax, which goes, wax into vinyl and there's oil and all that. But again, they take my understanding was about 100 years to break down or whatever.
But do you think, how much does an artist make on a CD?
Well,
roughly, just a book.
Well, if I look, I could give you the facts let's go back to when it was from a record company perspective. We used to wholesale them at about this is back when they were actually big, about $12.96. And if you say, that was in the first week of release. Well, hold on. That's in the first week of release, Rob. And the artist used to be on about 18% of wholesale, and that's the wholesale price.
Okay.
So what are you on? You're on $1.80, about, $2. About $2 of that. Yeah. Now, that was in the first week. You get to the second, third, fourth week, well, then you'd have Sanity and all that wanting to return the CDs because they took 50,000 of them, and then they got 20,000 left, sold 30. So we need to send some back. Where everything was sale or return.
I used to do the returns.
Yeah, they say they
at
weren't.
A record company.
Well, there you go. They say they weren't, but they were. So then we'd take those back. Well, we'd say to them, well, look, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a discount on those. We'll give them to you at $8.96. They go, okay. And then 3 months later, they've still have the 30,000 that were left, or if they had 50,000, sold 20 and there was 30, whatever. And there was 15,000 left. So then they go, right, we're sending those back. We go, we don't want those back, but we'll give you a discount and you can discount them and we'll give them to you at $4.96. Okay, so now we're dwindling that down, Rob.
We are, yeah.
Now we're getting down to what does the artist make? Well, he makes 18 cents on every dollar. So he makes about 80 cents.
How many songs on a CD?
Yeah, well, yeah. And so we're getting down, forget singles and EPs. Wow, that was down to, I'll give you, we'll give them to you at 20 cents. So that's where you got to back then. And so, but then it got to the point at the end, in the last 5, 6, 7 years of CDs, heyday, you'd be pumping them out at a discount to begin with. And you'd never sell them at $12.96. So we got that. So, that's what they were earning, around 18%. And then as you take the returns, right, and that's why we would report on a 6 monthly to the artist, because you got to factor in the release and then all the returns that go along. And by the time you got to the 6 months, the artist on, say, a 50,000 ship, probably would have made about $5,000 if they were lucky. And if we'd advanced the money, they made nothing. And that's the landscape of the music business where the artist makes nothing and it's all about marketing and selling, yada, yada, yada. So as environmentalists recognise Earth Week, I don't know how this comes into it, the annual platform for amplifying, inspiring and taking action worldwide on a range of issues, from sustainability, climate change and more. The Music Network can exclusively reveal details of the Australian Music Alliance. Its headline staff, Rob, supported by the New South Wales Environment Protection Authority. That's who they're supported. Yeah, that's who they're supported by. And the City of Sydney, the initiative will see Green Music conduct research and facilitate roundtable discussions with industry leaders, from which the collective issues will be identified and in time, problem solved in time. I'm not sure that we'll ever hear about that.
Where's the job board? I'm going for a job there.
Yeah, exactly. Members of the Alliance, ABC Music, they're really powerful. Air, Artist First, Remote Control, Sony, Rocket Distribution, of course, because they're the biggest vinyl distributors. Suitcase Records, The Orchard, Unified, and you go, Universal Music, Warner Music. So basically the major labels, right?
Yeah, still the same people getting it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Piece of the pie.
According to the reps, the first roundtable took place with 33 participants. Absolutely fantastic, isn't it? Green Music Australia exists to organise and facilitate and inspire musicians. Green Music Australia exists to organise, facilitate and inspire musicians and the broader industry. I thought they're there to be more environmental. What would you inspire them for? I'm just lost with that statement.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? But once again, the use of language is, AI search, so they get more hits. Is that why they use those words?
Managers, agents, promote. I can't believe this. Then it goes, the theme, cornerstone of the Global Earth Week was Planet versus Plastics. Well, I don't even want to get into the plastics when you go down to Coles and Woolworths and why you can't take your Tupperware to the deli section and they put your slices of ham into your Tupperware and put a sticker over the top of it with a barcode on it which charges you. Well, that gets rid of plastics and all the meats that are in plastics.
It used to be wrapped in paper.
Exactly. So
that's how you used to get it. You go, I'll have 10 slices of ham, and they wrap it up in a piece of paper and stick a sticker on it and hand it to you. There's no plastic involved.
On we go. As vinyl continues to grow in... Listen to this. As vinyl continues to grow in popularity and pressing plants struggle to keep up with demand for wax, the topic is even more timely, says reps from Green Music. We all love visiting our local record store, do we? I don't. And purchasing a copy of our favourite album, I don't. Many of us don't realise how polluting some of the materials in manufacturing and distributing music products can be. Hold on a minute. I'm not even interested in the materials and the distribution. I'm interested when the vinyl gets thrown in the green bin. That's what I'm interested in. And there's a CEO of Green Music Australia, obviously on a salary. Environmentally friendly options exist. Oh, do they? Well, why don't we implement them straight away? And with vinyl sales quadrupling in Australia over the last 10 years. Now, I'm going to tell you the figure shortly. Are you excited about that? It's more important than ever we collaborate. US pop phenomenon Billie Eilish, who's just announced 4 shows at Rod Laver here, has lent her voice to addressing the environmental impact of vinyl and taken heat for her comments. The Bad Guy singer and her mum spoke to Billboard in their wish to see more sustainable products in music business and pointed the finger at vinyl variants. Good on them. And they reckon we live in this day and age where for some reason it's very important for some artists to make all sorts of different vinyl and packaging, which ups the sales and ups the numbers and gets them more money, Eilish told Billboard. I can't even express to you how wasteful it is. Good on her, because it's right on the money. Eilish stuck by her guns and announced her next album, due out. It was her most eco-friendly yet, but I don't know how. Again, no substance around that. The journo wasn't going to tell you because he probably doesn't know. Vinyl is big business in Australia, they reckon. According to trade data, ARIA, major record labels, vinyl albums generated more than $42 million in revenue, up 14% from the year before. $42 million. Hey, mate, that's huge. Let's take all the costs out. It probably employs about 3 people. The Music Network reported at the time the market for vinyls is worth more than twice of CD albums. Twice, Rob. Twice of that product, which is so unenvironmental, it should be banned. And it's twice, but they talk about it as if, it's all a goer. And that's the end of the article.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, I think, can I offer something here?
Absolutely.
What do people like about vinyl? What's the size of it, the tactile sensation, having a cover, having something you can read and hold in your hand? I think that's what we all loved about vinyl. When I went to CD, it all got too small. You couldn't read it, and it sounded better. But the thing is, now all of that has basically been replaced with everything's online. That tactile sensation's disappeared. Everything's on a screen and through a set of speakers, and you can't really have any control over it. Physical sense, right? There's nothing physical. It's all in the cloud.
Mm.
Right? Now, the question that I thought of was when I asked you how much an artist would earn from an album or a CD sale, whether it's $1 a copy. Now, if you've got 4, 6, 8 songs, it comes down to about maybe 25 cents a song. And I'm just throwing figures out there to get through this. Now, per song, per play, how much is an artist getting on digital medium? Is there an imbalance between what the artist gets per song from the old medium, the vinyl, and the CD sale compared with the downloads or the streaming service? What's the difference there?
Well, you'll bring it down to that micro level, but if I go from a record company perspective and my experience over the last 40 years, if we had we had 32 local acts at our height at Mushroom in the 80s, and number ones all the time, and shipments of up to 500,000 over the life of the album, say Jimmy and whatever. Out of those 32 acts, how many made a living? Probably about 5.
And there it is.
So I know that's different. You didn't ask that question, so I'm being a politician here. You didn't ask that question. You're microing in on that. I'm telling you what has changed. Nothing, because it doesn't matter how much they earn per song. It still goes back to, can they earn a living? Well, they didn't earn a living back then. Out of that, about 5.
And they're not earning a living now.
Right. So I don't think anything has changed. If you want to get ahead, I think I've brought this up in other podcasts of ours, is that if you really want to make a living out of music, let's sit down and write a plan for 2 years and let's stick to it like glue on a daily basis. It's a business. And you might not become an international star, but you will be earning substantial amounts of money to at least live by, and the potential to expand out to an international, I suppose, on a worldwide big level. Yeah. But you stick to that plan, it will work. You got to stick to it like glue. Now, nothing changes. The music has to be good or have its niche. It can't just be garage band stuff. So, but put that comes as a given. So you can't. So I'm not sure anything's changed. And that's when I see these kind of alliances, environmental, where, and the headline is Friendly Vinyl Solutions. Did anything come out of that, what I just spoke? That was the article. Did you get any closer to Friendly Vinyl Solutions? Anything?
No.
I wonder if they brought anything up in there that they could have actually explained in there. Specifics for me, because I'm trying to learn. I want to learn how we could do it, because I'm anti-vinyl and I'm anti-CD.
Yeah. Are you a vinylist?
Oh, I've got plenty of vinyl, but, I would never buy any anymore because I don't believe in it anymore. I've learnt that, the world is in an environmental crisis. But I didn't get anything out of that article. They didn't give me any detail. I wonder when we will get some detail. And go on.
Well, the question I was posing, is it because of the tactile sensation of having something in your hand when you buy music versus having it on a screen and in the cloud?
Well,
is that what the popularity difference is?
Only to $42 million. Only to $42 million, Rob. We just devoted $925 million to violence towards women on a federal level. And then I see Di Lee, the politician, goes, well, that's not going to help. We need to get out of the cost of living crisis, which creates a lot of that violence, she reckons. And I read it and I thought, I kind of agree with you. Here we go again, $1 billion. So that's $1 billion just to that. And all of a sudden it's women in crisis. But we've got to get to the basis of why we've got that. Why are males being so devastating to females? Her take on it is, well, the cost of living crisis is a start. There'll be a big percentage there and whatever. And I thought, that's probably true when people are on their last legs and violence starts to kick in.
It's a huge generalisation, but, if you have to generalise like that, times are hard. People are struggling. Income earners are not making what they can. And at the end of the week, they've got no money left. So, of course, they're going to be frustrated and angry.
Well, you can see what's going on. Bonds are out of business this week. An airline out of business.
Who?
Bonza Airlines went out of business.
Bonza?
Yeah, Bonza. Well, they were your cheap airline. And so we need those airlines out there to combat the majors, because we're talking about monopolisation, as you are in the music industry. It's monopolisation. And that's happening in the air transport business with Qantas and Virgin. Of course, they got their sidekicks, Jetstar, and so that kind of monopoly hinders over all these things, and they put these smaller ones out of business. Then you've got higher prices, and you've got then Qantas making record profits, or whether you've got the supermarkets making record profits. But then what we do is we beat the CEO over the head. Well, it's no use beating the CEO over the head. It's putting things in place to protect the marketplace from that monopolisation, which is built on we must deliver for our shareholders. And who are those shareholders? Pull out the superannuation industry, which is run by a lot of ex-Labor unionists. And I say that in the nicest possible way, is that there is a lot of that happens, and they go into these super funds, and you kind of think, what experience or expertise do they have there? And, why not try and bring a more equitable process through the food chain to deliver food to people that has not delivered on the basis of these huge astronomical profits that must be delivered for, as they say, their shareholders, who may be the mums and dads, who then they go to me, you read this in the paper all the time, mums and dads who are really worried about their shares either dwindling in their retirement years or the return, the dividends, and how would they live? And I think, well, I'll just go through this. And I was at a dinner party, and I had to dinner, and I brought it up. Someone was talking about it. I said, "Oh, come on, that's all crap," because if I work out, you'd probably need a couple of $1 million in shares to get your dividends out to live comfortably. Well, who's got $2 million in shares?
Yeah, not a lot of people.
No, that's right. It's just journalistic hot air. It's just not true. I need real facts and figures around it. And it comes to all of this. It comes to the university that you just spoke about. We need some real facts and figures why this is all happening. Why can't it be out in the open? Or are they private enterprises, Rob, that can't give you that info because, well, that's in confidence? Oh, that's right, because you're in competition with some other institution.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, why wouldn't it be out in the open? What is so secretive about it? Tell us what's going on, really. Oh, we are telling you. No, you're not. You've given me a macro on a macro level.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, until next week, we've been got very heated today, and it's good talking to you as per normal, and we'll talk to you in a week's time.
Yes, I look forward to it.
Talk to you then.
I'll let you know what happens. Thanks, Vince.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
And there it is, another Laneway Talks.